Okay, so the purpose of this video is to show off what some of the new InputSystem can do, to go through its features, and to describe a little bit about how it works. So first of all, you'll notice that as soon as I point forward, you can see some cursors. You see a cursor in each hand. That's configurable. You can have a cursor in just the left hand, both hands, or just the right hand. Regular users right now can only see it in the right hand, but I have it turned on for both with just an admin setting. You also see that we have like cursor fades, so if you put your hands up and wave, the cursors go away, and then when you target forward again, they come back. I've just finished a bunch of work that should allow you to be able to turn the cursors on and off just by sort of clicking a little button on your own hand like that. And that way, if you don't want them at all, you can just kill them and they're gone. A few things to notice about these cursors. They have nice little icons at the business end. So you can see here, this desktop surface here is actually a Unity UI surface. So I'm using what I call the virtual mouse tool to interact with this surface. Now this is a tool-based input system, which means that when the cursor hits a surface, the cursor tells the surface or the object, whatever it is, that it's been targeted, and that object is able to place a virtual tool into the hand of the user, and then that tool becomes live, and now that tool mediates all interaction between the controller device and the actual object in the world. So the tool may have a cursor or it may not have a cursor. It totally depends on what the tool wants. The tool is in complete control of all input while the tool is active in the hand. And so we're constantly switching between tools. So let's say if I look at the right cursor here as I go off the desktop here, we drop the virtual mouse tool and we go back to the standard targeting tool. And then once we again hit another surface, now we're back onto the virtual mouse tool. Similarly, if I hit a browser window, so here we have a browser window. Again, this is the virtual mouse tool, but now it's acting against a Chromium surface instead of Unity UI surface. So here we have Unity UI up here, and then Chromium down here. Virtual mouse tool doesn't care. It sees each of these as a surface and then just sends standardized mouse events to them, like mouse hover, mouse down, mouse up, mouse wheel, that kind of thing, which allows you to do things like scroll. If I can find a place to do that. Let's see. Let's go to Wikipedia here. So here, what I'm doing right now is I'm toggling the right stick, and that passes mouse wheel events into the browser. Now, so far I've only been displaying distance interaction, and one of the main purposes of the input system is to allow both distance and proximity interactions. So this entire window here has a little behavior on it called a grab behavior, and that allows me to just simply reach forward and hit the grab button, and now I've grabbed this window. And while I have the window grabbed, I can move it around freely, do whatever I want with it. I can push it away from me, like push it far away. I can grow it, make it really enormous. I can make it really small, and then use the B button on the Oculus Touch to summon it to my hand. And now it's in my local proximity area. I can reach out and literally touch this thing. And then when I do, you'll notice that the tool representation changes. So in here, we have a tool that's in my hand, but in this case, the tool wants to display have a physical manifestation, a physical representation of itself, in this case a little stylus. And that means that I can use the tip of the stylus to actually browse around. Come on. That's weird. Internet bad? Okay, there we go. So whenever I touch the links, I get a nice little haptic feedback, so it feels a little bit like I'm actually touching something. And while I'm hovering over the page, I can also again use the stick on the controller to do scroll actions. So that's quite a nice, satisfying type of interaction. And I can bring up multiple windows like this. Again, summon them. Have one window over here, one window over there, interact remotely with them. And if I ever want to share this and make it big so everyone can see, again, I can just push it away from me, and now I can make it like room-sized and continue to interact with it almost the same way, except now I'm using like the primary button to simply click around, and it still feels very natural to go from cursor mode and then right back to proximity mode. So that's one thing that's really nice about the input system, which we couldn't do before. You can move multiple things around simultaneously. In fact, you can move the entire desktop around with cursors. And while you're moving the desktop, you can even move a window around at the same time. So you have a lot of flexibility and control. Another thing that the new input system does, which is, I think, somewhat unique in the VR space at the moment, this being 2017, is that we allow graceful fallback to other types of devices. So right now I've been using Oculus Touch and I have full 6-DoF control. But if I put these down and switch to the mouse, you'll notice that instantly we get a few more little widgets on the panel, specifically this one here. And this allows me to click and hold. And while I'm holding, I can use my head for rotation. I can use the mouse wheel to make the screen larger. I can hold the right mouse button down and control the Z axis. So I can push the browser away from me or bring it back towards me. And of course I can just move the mouse to control where the browser sits. So for example, if I want to put it on the wall, I still have pretty good control. Just push it a little bit like that, and presto, now it's against the wall. And I did that without 6-DoF controllers, purely with the mouse. And as soon as I pick up my 6-DoF controllers again, you'll see the mouse cursor goes away, 6-DoF controllers come back, and those extra widgets go away because it's not needed anymore. Because now I can just simply use the grab button to accomplish the same thing. Because I have a richer controller, I can do that sort of thing now. Alright, so some other types of interactions you can use. We have these things called physical tools. So what I've been talking about so far are ephemeral tools, where as soon as you target something, the tool goes into your hand and it's in use. We also have things called physical tools, like this little laser pointer over here. And mind you, this is like a really, this is just a demo, so this isn't the kind of asset that we would show to real users, right? It's just a stand-in, really. But the point is, a physical tool, unlike an ephemeral tool, remains in place in the world. And in fact, everyone in the world can see it, and you can pass it from user to user. And at any time, I can simply grab it, and you'll notice my hand goes away, and the tool goes into my hand. And while I'm holding it now, again, all of the controls of my Oculus Touch controller are dedicated to the needs of this physical tool. So for example, if I hit the trigger button, that'll fire the laser pointer, and I get a nice little haptic feedback again. That's just a simple example, but a tool, again, can use all of the controls of a controller in an optimal way. And we have action maps and action map factories that allow you to map the kind of inputs the object needs, for example, in this case, grab and fire, and map that to things like the trigger button and button A and that sort of thing. And usually the tool doesn't have to care, it just knows that it wants, in this case, what is something I call the gun action map, which has grab and fire actions on it, and then the action map factories for the Oculus Touch controller will do the mapping so that the fire button controls the laser. And also, while I have this up, I should show you this. While the cockpit is up, when you toggle the cockpit, your hands go away and you see a physical representation of the controller, and you also see a bunch of nice little tooltips. And as you rotate the controllers, you'll see that the tooltips always face your eye, which is kind of nice. And that helps you understand all the things you can do. So in addition to controlling the active tool in your hand, there's a bunch of other things you can always do, things like teleport and just move around the local space, that sort of thing. So I can show you that quickly. So right now I can just use this, hold the stick down to move around. I can hold the B button to teleport. And that works because I have a bunch of background tools in my hand in addition to the primary tool. And there's also an action map reservation system in play so that if, let's say, the primary tool in your hand needs the B button, then you won't be able to teleport because the B button is now reserved for the primary tool, and the teleport tool just turns itself off because it doesn't have the inputs it needs to do its job. So that really avoids conflicts between various, like the primary tool and various background tools, and even the list of background tools. You can have an ordered list of these background tools, and the higher on the list you are, the higher you are in the pecking order when it comes to reserving inputs from whatever controller is active. Okay, so moving on, I also want to show you a nice little pen that I've got here. Notice how I was able to grab that from a distance as well. And with this pen, I can simply draw in free space. And once I've drawn something, I can target that drawing, grab it, rotate it, summon it to my hand, push it away from my hand again. I can resize it, shrink it, move it, so I have a lot of control. I can also, pass it from hand to hand. And again, grab the pen and add to it. So in this case, I can hold the pen still and just move the drawing, and that accomplishes the same thing as holding the drawing still and moving the pen, which is kind of nice. And again, this is a good example of the pen tool using lots of different buttons on the controller. So, it uses the primary A button or the trigger button. And while I'm holding one of these guys, the stick controls distance, and also if you on the x-axis the stick controls size. So that gives you a lot of control. So that's an example of the physical tools. They behave the same way with the input system in the sense that they are the primary tool that's in your hand at any given time. It's just that unlike ephemeral tools, you can actually see them and they have presence in the world. Okay, we also have in AltspaceVR a series of interactables. And you can see a few of them over here. And the input system obviously has an interactables tool that goes into your hand whenever you target an interactable, and then you can have the interactable come to you. And if you have a telekinesis ability, which I have turned on right now, you can grab things from a distance, push things out, and sort of move and control things as if you had like godlike telekinesis powers, which is actually quite convenient for a lot of things. So I can toss this thing onto the barbecue. I really wish real life was like this. So I'm barbecuing, everything's looking really nice. I can just reach over here and summon a burger to my hand, and there we go. That bug never got fixed, did it? Oh, now I can eat my burger. Let's see. I should probably flip this before it burns. It's looking pretty nice. Oh dear. Now it's on fire. I waited too long. But a burning burger apparently still tastes good in AltspaceVR. Let me show you some more interactables in a different setting, because they're actually a lot of fun. Alright, here we are in the medieval tavern, so I'm going to grab a sword and a shield. There we go. I can use them like normal, like you'd expect, but I can also do the, I can also do the phantom sword, where I can control it at a distance, which is lots of fun. Using telekinesis, I can also cheat at basketball. So I'm much better at that than I am in real life. So here I'm just summoning the thing to my hand each time, or if I'm lucky enough, I can actually grab it physically, just because it's at my hand when I grab. So yeah, interactables are a lot of fun. But the intention was that interactables would eventually get replaced by physical tools so that you have much finer grained control over what the interactable does, or the interactable would have access to your controller's buttons and have more ability to do things there. Another thing I need to show you, which I haven't yet, is... Let me just go back to the house party because it's got brighter colors and backgrounds. I need to show you the keyboard. So this is the standard AltspaceVR keyboard, and as you move through the keys, you get little tick haptics, so that helps you know when you're moved from one button to another, and you can type away. But also, like anything else, now you can grab this keyboard and move it around, position it wherever you want, shrink it, summon it, you know, and now it's amenable to proximity interactions. So this is a Unity UI component. So again, we're just, as soon as you come within proximity of the keyboard, you end up with the styluses. And now I can just tap away with the styluses, which is, you know, a nice satisfying way to type. And if you want to make the keyboard a bit bigger or smaller, you can just instantly grab and scale it. And that works really, really nicely. So the vision was that, you know, you would be able to position the keyboard wherever you want, have it available for you, so when you're mucking around with a browser or whatever, the keyboard's there and you can use it at once. Or obviously summon it again as needed. And again, with a button like this, you can just close it in proximity mode or close it from a distance. All that works just fine. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? Oh yeah, right. I should probably just show you this. This is kind of fun. If I go to the Paint Studio, so here we have the Paint Studio, and I select a color here. I should be able to paint just in proximity mode. And this is just a silly demo. I mean, this was never really intentional this way. It's just that this happens to be a browser surface, like a very big browser surface. And because it's a browser surface, I can interact with it using the virtual mouse tool, and next thing you know, I'm kind of painting on the surface, which is, you know, kind of nice. The way this pen works is that I'm actually shooting out a 10 centimeter ray out of the pen, and then inspecting what it intersects, and then deciding whether I want to interact with that surface or not. And I just finished a little bit of work, just as Altspace was going under, that allows you to also ray cast off of your fingertip, which would allow me to, you know, interact with small buttons without needing a mouse surface. So that's something that would have been coming really fast, but I don't know, looks like we might not have an opportunity to work on that. Other little examples, so here we have the old Altspace camera, and I just put a really, really trivial camera tool on there that was based on the gun action map, which allows me to grab the camera, release the camera, and while I'm holding the camera, shoot. So I can take pictures like that. And I'm just using the trigger on the controller to do so. So I guess that's about it. I had an awful lot of fun building this thing, and all the demos I've shown so far are really just primitive examples. The InputSystem's first priority was to meet feature parity with the old InputSystem that Altspace originally was built with, which I've done. The next step after that would have been to build a series of personal tools that you always had access to, a much better camera that actually looked like a little DSLR that would spit out Polaroids that you could then put a picture frame around and slap on the wall, and then personalize your space with, a completed pen tool with the ability to select your hue, ability to erase, resize, all those sorts of things. So that would have come along. And then the third thing would have been a personal browser panel, much like the one on the desktop, but without all the desktop widgetry. That would allow you to pull up a panel anywhere you want in a space and just browse around. And those three things would have been really, really nice for users. I was also thinking of working on, you know, musical instrument experiences where you can use the 6-stop control on your buttons to have like fine control over a media device. That would have been a lot of fun, and a bunch of other things. But right now, where we're at is that the input system's been live for about a month for PC, and I was just about to turn it on for mobile. It was on already for admins, but not for regular users. Oh, and the final thing I should mention is all the devices supported. So the input system supported for 6DoF Touch and Vive, and also a little controller called Ximmerse. That was a third-party 6DoF controller for mobile. We experimented with that. And it also supported Oculus, the Oculus remote device, game pads, what else? 3DoF controllers, the Gear VR controller, and the Daydream controller. And I think that was pretty much it. But the intention was to make it very, very, very easy to add new devices in the future. So there was a lot of architecture that made the separation and the layering between devices and their action map factories, their action maps, the tools that use those action maps, and then the in-world objects or surfaces that were affected by those tools. So we had a nice layering system in place there that would have been really future-proof. So I guess that's about everything I wanted to say. So have a nice day, and thanks for listening.